The box they gave me was red. Christmas red. Like that made it kinder. Inside it were the things I had built my life around for 7 years, my framed, Employee of the Year, certificate, a coffee mug with my name etched in gold, a few family photos and the cheap snow globe I kept on my desk every December. Outside the glass walls of the conference room, the office was decorated with wreaths and fake snow. Someone was playing Jingle Bell Rock too loudly. Across the table sat Daniel Mercer, my CEO. Navy suit. Perfect smile. The kind of man who practiced empathy in the mirror. "Ethan," he said, folding his hands like he was about to pray for me. "This is strictly a restructuring decision. It's not personal." It was personal. I had built the Midwest distribution network for Redline Logistics from scratch. I slept in my car twice during our expansion year to make sure a contract closed. I missed my sister's wedding rehearsal to fix a compliance issue that could have cost us millions. I told myself loyalty mattered. I told myself hard work was enough. Daniel slid a paper across the table. "Severance. 2 weeks. Right before Christmas. We need leadership with a more aggressive vision," he added gently. "You're steady, reliable, but this next phase requires a different energy." Different energy. Translation: younger, louder, cheaper. I saw the real reason through the glass wall when the door opened. Tyler Grant walked by, 29, expensive haircut, son of one of our investors. He didn't even look at me. Just adjusted his cufflinks and walked into my office. My office. That was the moment humiliation settled in my chest like cold concrete. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I signed. When I stepped outside into the Chicago winter, the wind cut through my coat like it knew I didn't belong anywhere anymore. I sat in my car in the parking lot for almost an hour. Snow gathered on the windshield. My phone buzzed with Slack notifications as they removed my access one by one. Like erasing me in real time. I drove home to a half-lit apartment and an empty fridge. My girlfriend, Marissa, was already packing her things when I walked in. "I heard," she said softly. "Tyler told me." "Of course he did. You're talented," she continued, not meeting my eyes. "But I need stability. I can't build a future on uncertainty." Stability. Another word that meant someone else. By New Year's, I had lost my job, my girlfriend, and most of my confidence. I started delivering groceries to cover rent. At night, I lay awake replaying every meeting, every strategy session, every time I defended the company like it was family. The anger didn't explode. It didn't scream. It hardened. One night in January, while sorting old files on my laptop, I found something I had forgotten about. During my time at Redline, I had quietly built a proprietary route optimization model, an algorithm that reduced fuel costs by nearly 18%. I pitched it once. Daniel said it was too conservative. Tyler later presented a watered-down version of it as his own idea. They never fully understood it. But I did. For the first time since Christmas, I didn't feel small. I felt patient. I started studying market reports. Redline's aggressive expansion had over-leveraged them. High-interest debt, risky contracts. Their public filings told a story no one inside the company wanted to see. They weren't strong. They were exposed. I used my severance to register an LLC. Nothing flashy. Just a quiet logistics consulting firm. I reached out to 2 old warehouse managers who had been laid off the year before me. They didn't hesitate. Loyalty didn't die, it just changed direction. We worked from my kitchen table. By March, Redline missed a quarterly earnings projection. Stock dipped. Analysts blamed operational inefficiencies. I smiled when I read that phrase. Operational inefficiencies. I knew exactly where those were buried. Tyler called me once in February. "Hey man," he said, like we were friends. "Quick question, do you still have that original model you built? We're trying to optimize some routes, and..." I let him finish. "I deleted everything when I left," I lied calmly. Silence on the other end. "Right. Of course." That was the moment I knew. They needed what they threw away. And I was done giving anything for free. I didn't want to destroy them. I wanted to own the ground they stood on. By early spring, I had secured a small but strategic contract with a regional retailer that Redline had ignored for years. My model cut their costs so sharply that word spread fast. Other mid-sized clients followed, quietly, steadily. The same discipline that once built Redline was now building something else. Something patient, something inevitable. A private equity analyst contacts me after noticing how my optimization model is outperforming Redline's public numbers, and over coffee in downtown Chicago, he reveals the company is drowning in short-term debt they can't refinance. I partner with that analyst to structure a quiet investment vehicle, targeting Redline's distressed secondary shares as the stock continues to fall after another failed quarter under Tyler's leadership. Marissa reappears at a networking event, now working in Redline's marketing department, and I see the subtle panic in her eyes when she realizes I'm no longer the broken man she left. Redline announces layoffs to control costs, and two former senior managers call me, ready to jump ship and bring their client lists with them. Through disciplined acquisitions, I gain controlling interest in a key supplier that Redline depends on, legally restructuring pricing in ways that tighten pressure without breaking contracts. Daniel Mercer requests a private meeting, attempting to offer me a consulting contract, unaware that my investment group now quietly holds a significant minority stake in his company. When Redline breaches a loan covenant, lenders demand new leadership as a condition for refinancing, and my group positions itself as the stabilizing solution. The boardroom was colder than I remembered. Same glass walls, same long walnut table, same skyline bleeding gray through the Chicago morning. But the seats felt different now. Heavier, charged. I sat 3 chairs down from Daniel Mercer, not across from him like before. Not beneath him, beside him. The emergency board meeting had been called at 6:30 a.m. Redline had officially breached its loan covenant overnight. The banks wanted blood or a miracle. Preferably both. Tyler looked exhausted. His tie was crooked. The confidence he once wore like cologne had evaporated. He kept checking his phone, as if a message might arrive to save him. It didn't. The lead lender's representative spoke first. Calm, surgical. Redline requires immediate leadership restructuring to qualify for refinancing. We need operational stability and shareholder confidence restored within 30 days. Daniel cleared his throat. We are evaluating options. You already have, the lender replied, glancing toward me. Mr. Hayes represents the largest new voting bloc. Silence fell. Daniel turned slowly, like someone realizing the fire alarm wasn't a drill. You, Tyler whispered under his breath. I didn't smile. I didn't smirk. I just met his eyes. Yes, I said evenly. Me, the investment vehicle we built had crossed the threshold quietly 2 weeks ago. Enough secondary shares, enough influence, enough leverage, the kind that doesn't shout, it signs. Daniel straightened in his chair. Ethan, if this is some kind of emotional retaliation, it's structural. Correction, I interrupted calmly. You overexpanded. You ignored cost efficiency. You replaced discipline with optics. Tyler slammed a hand lightly on the table. This is insane. He was delivering groceries 3 months ago. I let that sit in the air. I was studying, I replied. The lender spoke again. The condition is simple. New CEO. Immediate operational turnaround plan. Mr. Hayes has submitted a 90-day stabilization proposal. Daniel looked at the printed packet in front of him for the first time. My name was on the cover. I watched the moment land. The recognition. The regret. You've been planning this, he said quietly. Since Christmas, I answered. No anger. Just truth. The vote happened quickly after that. Fear accelerates decision-making. One by one, hands raised around the table. Tyler's future evaporated in under 60 seconds. When it was over, he didn't argue. He just stared at the wood grain in front of him, like it might rearrange itself into a different outcome. Daniel remained still longer than anyone else. He had built this company from a rented warehouse. He had also taught it how to discard loyalty when convenient. Effective immediately, the board chair announced, Tyler Grant is removed as Chief Executive Officer. The words echoed in the glass room. Tyler stood up slowly, looking at me like I was something unfamiliar. Something dangerous. You think this makes you better than us? He asked. No, I said softly. It makes me prepared. He left without another word. Daniel stayed seated. You could have called me, he said after the room thinned out. We could have negotiated. I did call you, I replied. 7 years in a row. You just didn't hear me. For the first time since I had known him, he didn't have a response. Outside the conference room, employees were whispering. News traveled fast, especially when it carried shock. I stepped into my old office an hour later. It still smelled the same. Clean, artificial, controlled, but the nameplate was gone. I stood by the window and looked down at the parking lot where I once sat in my car, staring at snow collecting on the windshield, wondering who I was without this place. Now the building felt smaller. Not because it had shrunk. Because I hadn't. The restructuring wasn't complete yet. Ownership papers still needed signatures. Final leverage still needed execution. But something had already shifted. The man who walked out before Christmas had been erased. The one who walked back in had rewritten the terms. The hallway outside the boardroom felt different after the vote. Quieter, not peaceful, just stunned. Word had spread through every floor before the official email even went out. Tyler was gone. Daniel was transitioning. The lenders were circling. And somehow, the man who had been escorted out with a red box before Christmas was now standing at the center of it all. Daniel asked me to walk with him. We moved slowly past the glass offices, past employees who suddenly found deep interest in their computer screens. I remembered that walk, the one where I carried my things out under fluorescent lights. Today, no one avoided my eyes. They studied me. In his office, Daniel closed the door and leaned against his desk instead of sitting behind it. For the first time since I'd known him, he didn't look like a CEO. He looked like a man who had miscalculated. You've made your point, he said quietly. What do you want? I didn't answer immediately. I looked around the room. The framed magazine covers, the leadership awards, the photos with investors, symbols of authority, symbols I once believed were permanent. I want stability, I said finally. He gave a faint, humorless laugh. That's what Marissa used to say about you. Her name didn't sting anymore. It barely registered. You confused stability with predictability, I replied. There's a difference. He studied me like he was trying to find the old version, the loyal operations director who worked weekends and apologized for ambition. He's gone, I said, reading his silence. Daniel exhaled slowly. The board wants me to step down after the refinancing closes. Yes, I said. That's part of the agreement. You wrote it that way. I structured it that way. There was no pleasure in saying it. Just clarity. He nodded once, almost respectfully. You've outplayed me. No, I corrected gently. I learned from you. That landed harder than any insult could have. Later that afternoon, the official announcement hit inboxes. Leadership restructuring, interim stabilization plan, strategic realignment. Corporate language for an earthquake. I spent the next 3 days inside conference rooms with lenders, auditors, and legal teams. Every number mattered, every clause. I wasn't here to humiliate them. I was here to rebuild, on terms that protected what I had built in the first place. The private equity group finalized its position, converting debt leverage into equity control. Quietly, legally, irreversibly. On Friday morning, Daniel packed his office. No ceremony, no applause. I watched from across the floor as he placed awards into a cardboard box. Not red, just plain brown. For a brief second, our eyes met through the glass wall. There was no hatred there. Just recognition. When he walked past my office now, he paused. Take care of it, he said. I will, I replied. He left without another word. That evening, I called an all-hands meeting. Hundreds of employees filled the main floor, uncertain and tense. Some of them had watched me get fired months earlier. Some had whispered about it. Some had felt it coming for themselves. I stepped onto the small stage near the lobby. I'm not here to punish anyone, I began. My voice was steady, not loud. I'm here to fix what broke. I told them the truth. About overexpansion. About ignored data. About discipline replaced by ego. I didn't mention Christmas. I didn't mention humiliation. I didn't need to. I built the Midwest network, I continued. I know what this company can be when we respect the numbers and the people doing the work. The room was silent. No more reckless contracts. No more optics over operations. And no more discarding loyalty because it's inconvenient. That part wasn't in the script. Applause started slowly, then stronger. Not for me, for relief. As the crowd dispersed, I stood alone for a moment under the high ceilings, listening to the echo fade. This wasn't revenge in the explosive sense. It wasn't dramatic or loud. It was controlled. It was earned. But one final piece still remained. Ownership wasn't complete until the final acquisition documents cleared regulatory review. And until that signature dried, the story wasn't finished. The final documents arrived on a clear April morning. No dramatic music. No crowded room. Just a long oak table, a stack of papers thick enough to represent every sleepless night since Christmas, and a pen that felt heavier than it should have. The attorneys walked me through the last clauses: equity conversion finalized, controlling interest confirmed, refinancing secured under new leadership terms. Clean, legal, permanent. When I signed my name on the final page, it wasn't rushed. I wrote it slowly, deliberately. Ethan Hayes, majority owner. The ink dried in seconds. 7 years of loyalty had ended in a red box. 4 months of discipline had ended in ownership. By noon, the official announcement went live. Redline Logistics was now under new majority control, effective immediately. Markets responded with cautious optimism. The stock ticked upward before the closing bell. Stability. That word again. I walked back into the same glass conference room where Daniel had folded his hands and told me it wasn't personal. The chairs were filled again, board members, senior executives, department heads. Some nervous, some curious, a few quietly relieved. I took the seat at the head of the table. No one questioned it. I let the silence settle before speaking. This company forgot something, I began evenly. It forgot that numbers don't lie, but egos do. No one interrupted. We expanded without discipline. We promoted image over infrastructure. We confused noise with leadership. I looked around the table slowly. Not accusing, just steady. I was told I wasn't aggressive enough for the next phase. A few eyes dropped. You were right, I continued calmly. I'm not reckless. I don't gamble with payroll. I don't replace loyalty with convenience. And I don't erase people after they build something that works. The room felt smaller now. Focused. This isn't revenge, I said. It's correction. I outlined the 12-month recovery plan, cost stabilization, route optimization reinstated under my original model, executive compensation tied strictly to performance metrics, no more investor favoritism hires. Transparent, measurable, accountable. When I finished, no one clapped. They nodded. That was enough. After the meeting, I walked down to the parking lot alone. The same lot where snow had once covered my windshield while I sat there feeling erased. The pavement was dry now. Spring sunlight reflected off the building's glass exterior. I stood in the exact spot where my old car had been parked that day. I remembered the weight in my chest. The humiliation, the fear, the feeling that I had lost everything that defined me. I hadn't lost myself. I had been redirected. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Congratulations. I misjudged you, Daniel. I read it once, then locked the screen. Closure doesn't always come with apologies. Sometimes it comes with balance restored. I got into my car, not to escape, not to deliver groceries, not to sit in silence, but to drive home knowing something unshakable. They fired me before Christmas. By spring, I didn't just return. I owned the ground they stood on. And this time, I decided who stayed.